Man, and I'm the Early Years and Childcare Subject Specialist here at NCFE. We are joined today by Laura Chapman, Kelly Mitchell, and Lisa Church. They're going to be talking to us about their journeys in education and childcare. I'm also joined today by Angie. Angie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, so I'm Angie Rogers, and Stacey and I work very closely together. I'm the subject specialist for teaching and learning, so always working together, and our paths have crossed in our career journey as well. So we've got lots of loveliness to share.
We absolutely have. So, without further ado, Lisa, we'd love to hear what your journey has been like in the education and childcare sector. So, over to you.
It has been very adventurous. I started off completing my NNEB, deciding I wanted to travel, went off to the United States with a friend. We nannied over there, came back, decided to go with another friend around Europe because we had hoped to get a nanny job on our travels. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be. She fell in love. She came home. However, I then got to work in a private nursery in which I kind of worked my way up pretty quickly and really enjoyed a senior position. However, I kind of felt that it wasn't my calling. So I decided then to go into hospitals. So I went to work in London for UCLH and worked in the children's outpatients department. And that again was a really different environment, a really good thing to see different aspects of what the sector involves. So I worked there for a period and again wanted then to look at other areas. So I worked in the MOD creche in London. And it was there where I was working and again loving, because every environment's got something different to bring. And I think that's what's so good about early years. There's so much choice out there. But I worked in there, and what I realized through talking with parents is there seemed to be a gap in the market, in the sense of they would say they have nurseries where it's 7 till 7 at the time it was, and then suddenly the children go to school and then that's only 9 till 3. So my friend and I that I went to college with decided to set up our own company where we offered after school clubs, breakfast clubs and holiday clubs in a number of schools in the Essex area. Very proud to say that whilst we sold it, it still runs under our name 25 years later. So that's really nice. Having gone into that area, when I first started my business, as with any business, it takes a while to build up. So I had I decided I'm going to go into a lecturing position as well. And it was in there that I kind of thought, you know what, I'd like to extend my knowledge and decided to do a degree, which then was in early childhood studies, and then obviously extended my knowledge that I could bring to my workplace. A number of years after all of this, I then had my own children, wanted to give focus to them because obviously I'd worked with everybody else's, and it was important to me that I then gave my own children time. So I then worked in nurseries and preschools and schools that they went to. I just volunteered so that I could work my time around my children. After that, there is more. After that, I went into school nursing in a council, and again, a very different environment altogether. They would go into schools, they would do the weight checks, the height checks on children, look at how things are coming out, and we would then teach them healthy lifestyles, etc. And from that, I was mentoring somebody and then felt I enjoyed the mentoring. So I decided to go into further education and teach the early years. I wanted to give something back. And to support me again, I then took the teaching degree with that. And again, had a number of years where it was really lovely to see people taking their journeys into the early years sector. And now I am with NCFE, and again, it's a very different environment again. But again, it just shows how many different options there are in the early years and how it's really good to look at the varying sectors and see what might fit you and what might fit at one stage, you know, you might develop. And again, that's all part of the course. So, but yeah, so it's been a very lovely adventure and one I would recommend highly.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. That's such an amazing journey. And I think that what you said right at the end there is really important for the students that might be listening to this, or anybody at any point in their journey. That it's not, there's not a final destination, is there? With early years, I think very much it's where you are in your life, the stage that you're
Yeah.
in,
But
and
also
just
it's
like you
that
said.
flexibility, I guess. Again, it
Yeah.
allows if you want to be staying at home again and those kind of things. And again, you know, if you are with your children, again, there are opportunities with before clubs, after clubs. It gives you that option, which again, some jobs unfortunately don't necessarily allow in the same way. So yes, so no, it is different, you know, different stages, and that's all very good for your CPD and your personal growth. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely that personal growth. And you mentioned qualifications that you gained along the way and felt that you needed to expand your
Cool.
knowledge in
Yeah.
certain ways. Do you think that CPD is important in the early years sector?
Oh,
It's a daft
100%.
question to us, isn't it? But very much
100%. It's
important.
integral, isn't it? Because again, early years, I think more than most sectors, is constantly evolving. We're constantly learning. But also, you know, there are a lot of things that aren't done right, and therefore we need to keep up to date with legislation and with our policies and procedures because we need to ensure we're doing it right. We are looking after people's most precious gift. So yes, CPD is essential in the growth of you as a person, as well as you being able to give your best to every child that you are with.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, thank you.
Kelly, over to you and your journey, which I know has also had twists and turns along the way. So over to you.
Okay, hello everyone. I am Kelly Mitchell. So, similar to Lisa, when I was finishing school, I decided to go to college, although my teachers were telling me that I needed to do A levels because I was able to do them. But I was really drawn to the NNEB, as it was called many years ago. And it being a practical course where you could do lots of work experience. I already knew that I wanted to work with children. And at the time, I was really interested in working with children with special needs. My sister has cerebral palsy, and I did lots of voluntary work with her when I was young, and I helped out at clubs that she went to and went into her school. So I was really interested in working with children with special needs and wanted to be a primary teacher with children with special needs. So I put my foot down and I said, no, I'm not doing A levels, I'm going to college. And I loved being at college. I learned so much about child development, and I was really inspired to continue working with children. We did lots of placements. It was really exciting, and I qualified. However, when I was at school, I didn't pass my maths and science GCSE to the grade you needed to get into university. Retook them at college and still didn't pass them. So I was left in a situation where I couldn't go to university straight away. I knew that I needed to do them for a third time. And I was already working part-time in a creche that had a day nursery. And I went to the manager and said, do you have any full-time vacancies? And she said, yes, we do, in the baby room. And I was a little bit apprehensive because I'd done some work experience with the babies, but not a lot. And I still felt that I really wanted to work with children with special needs, but there weren't any vacancies in the schools doing that role. So I took the position and I started working with the babies in the baby room, and I loved it. I loved it so much that I did it for years and years. And I became the baby room leader, and I loved planning their day and setting up activities. I loved being a key person and working with the parents to help the babies to develop. I loved talking about weaning and helping them to move from formula to cow's milk. All of those little things are really exciting. I did move to another nursery that was in Canary Wharf in London. And I was actually there for 16 years. So over the time I moved into different roles. So I was a room leader, then I became a deputy manager. And then I ended up managing a brand new nursery that they built, which was 100 place. And I loved that as well. During that time, the government had decided that everybody who was working in an early years setting needed to have someone who had a degree. So that we was making sure that the care and education we were offering to the children was of the highest standard. So I was really lucky that I got put forward to do that training. So I went to university while I was working, and I was really fortunate because that was funded at the time as well. And I was really inspired by my university lecturers, and it was while I was there that I was thinking, I think that in the future I could do this. I could be a lecturer and continue to inspire young people to do the job that I've been doing. So when I'd finished my training, during that time I also had 2 children of my own. I did some training and development. The EYFS was born, and that was really exciting to see that eventually the government had recognised that we do need a curriculum within the early years, that actually it is important that babies and young children's development is recognised. And it was really helpful for practitioners and for parents to understand that journey that children go on and all of those skills that we need to plan and teach children. So I did lots of training around that with the practitioners. And then I decided that I did want to go off and do something else. So I went and did my PGCE, and I got a job teaching in FE. And I was there for several years teaching the early years qualifications. And then I got to a point where I thought, right, I'm ready for my next challenge. And this job came along. So I'm now at NCFE, and I'm moderating the T levels in childcare and education. So very exciting. That's my journey.
Wow. What a journey, Kelly. Can I just say that is amazing. I mean, again, following on from Lisa, I think it's amazing to see that the path and very similar to the journey sort of that I had, that that there's nothing to say that you've got to get all your qualifications packed in, going from school, GCSE to university, all in those first few years. And that's what I tell my children, that actually you've got your whole life ahead of you. And like you were saying, twists and turns, and actually you don't know what path you're going to take. And a bit like mine, I went on and did my degree a little bit later on in life, and I think until you know which path you're going to go on, then that takes you down to that route. And I think that's growth. And I think that's personal growth. And I think that's made you the person that you are today. So I think that's for me is really inspiring to hear that. So thank you.
That's okay. I was going to say, I think for a lot of young people that go into early years, and they might not have those GCSEs straight away as well. And, they're studying, and, it's hard work when you're young, and, there's lots going on, and it is hard work. And, I didn't pass mine again the second time, but I had to do it again later in life to do my teaching qualification. And at that time in my life, I was much more ready and prepared.
Of course.
And my brain was ready to learn maths and be able to apply it in the way that I needed to. So it's never too late. And I think that is an important thing to remember. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's too much pressure, isn't there, to get those grades, those grades, but actually follow life's path. And I think that will take you to where you need to be. And for me, that's what we need to really, flip education sometimes and sort of really sort of show that actually, and with the education and childcare toolkit that we provide, that offering those opportunities, I think is, showcasing like what you guys, this is what we want to do. So thank you for sharing that. So is there anything you'd like to say, Stacey, on top of that?
No, I'm just nodding along with everything that everybody's saying, because I just think it's going to be such a welcome addition to the Careers Toolkit for everybody to see this, because of those journeys being so different. And I was nodding along to you saying that everything doesn't have to be right in that get-go, because that's exactly what I did. I burnt myself out. I went from school to college to university, and I wasn't ready, and I dropped out and went back later in life, and it was something that I regretted back then. But they say that in 5 years from now, why that happened, and I definitely know why that happened and why I needed to wait to do my degree. So I think that will resonate with so many people.
Definitely.
So thank you for sharing that, Kelly.
Thank you. So now we're going to listen to the lovely Laura to tell us her story and her journey. So over to you, Laura.
I suppose what I'm going to do is reiterate what everybody said, really. I mean, where I started was the children's centres. So when the children's centres had started, I was working across the board with 0 to 3. I also had experience with organising a play scheme in the school holidays as well. And I liked being with all ages. I just was passionate about every single age group. And at times I did find certain age groups, especially the 2-year-olds, a bit trickier. I must admit, everybody has their forte and what they prefer to work with. And I did find that was a tricky age group. But I think as I I then decided to go on to other settings and wanted to just explore other settings as well. So I went into agency work and went across the board. I went to schools, mainstream schools, special schools, and it was a really nice experience to just explore those different ways of working. I just found it fascinating. I worked in private nurseries as well and saw how they worked, and it was just enjoyable to see the passion that the practitioners had, and I think it spurred me on to then work with I then went on to a school, and I worked in the nursery at that school. But I also my experience from the children's centre, I worked quite closely with an autistic child, and I used Makaton to support their communication. And I think that kind of experience then, as I was working within the school, really spurred me on to work with additional needs as well. So I think my journey, mine is another journey as well. So I went on to looking at specific additional needs for my degree. So I went on. So I started off with a level 3 qualification and decided I wanted to go back into education. I wasn't ready back then, and I felt at that point I was ready to re-enter academia. So so that's what I decided to do, and I think that was just where my journey was heading, and I really enjoyed working and also using the degree and putting that into practice. So yeah, it was nice to have that experience and really put all my practice together and the theory together. So once I completed my degree, I worked in an autistic school, which was it was challenging, but such a rewarding experience. And then years down the line, I went on to then decide I wanted to go into further education and almost pass all that knowledge and skills that I'd learned on to others, because I just feel that I'm passionate about learning, and I think that's what it's about, isn't it? Learning, taking on that information. And like you've all said, you've all gone on your own journey, and that's what it's about. It's about being passionate and eager and putting yourself all in. I think that's what it's about, isn't it? All in and showcasing what you can do and passing that passion on. I think that's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm inspired by everybody in the room, and I feel like this is a wonderful job that I do, but just listening to you talk about those things, Laura, has made me want to go back into a nursery. Sorry, NCFE.
No, Stacey.
But you don't set off in your career thinking, I want to work for an awarding organisation, do you?
No,
You
but you're
don't
right,
think
yeah.
that's what you want to do. But these opportunities show themselves. And if you're interested in that area, I'm sure, Laura, you didn't set out to work in an autistic school, but because that opportunity came up and you saw that it piqued an interest in you, but it was one of your strengths, because I imagine the way that you speak, Laura, is very calming and therapeutic for children with special educational needs and disabilities. That's what comes across for me. So when you were working in that sort of setting, what do you think you really needed as your own skills to be able to work in a very niche area of early years?
I think patience. I think patience, and I think it's really easy sometimes to run away with whatever you need to do. I think it's taking stock and it's reflecting. I think reflecting and really taking note of what's happening. I think it's quite easy to react, but actually sometimes it's about taking on board what you've seen and using a calm and, like you say, nurturing approach. I think that works across the board, doesn't it? I think that's what we need to be as practitioners: nurturing, supportive, calm. I think that's what
absolutely.
I need
There's
to
space for all those personalities, isn't there? I think sometimes, I remember very, very clearly having a conversation with a student who said to me, I don't think I'm confident enough to work with children. And I asked her what confidence meant to her. And she very much thought it was, children's TV presenter jazz hands, like rolling around on the floor, being really, really playful and really excited all the time. That's what confidence meant to her. And actually, there is space for the quieter and the calmer and the less confident members of staff. We need them. We need that balance. And I'm sure that everybody else could probably comment on that, having been managers of people as well, that you need that mixture, don't you? Need that diversity of personality and approach to working with the children.
Definitely, and that's why.
Sorry,
carry on, Kelly.
I was just going to say, sometimes, Stacey, there's children that are also like that in early years, that are very shy and withdrawn, and sometimes they find the practitioners that are really bubbly and loud a little bit overwhelming, and actually those children need those quieter members of staff that don't want to be jumping up and down like a presenter. That's absolutely fine. And I've quite often had students that maybe feel like they can't go and read a story straight away, which is absolutely fine, but they quickly make really positive relationships with those children that are really struggling to settle in and find their belonging, and actually they're really supportive to that child's personal, social and emotional development.
Absolutely. I was just going to say exactly the same, Kelly, because I've seen it in my own experience that you're absolutely right. There is a place for everybody, because we can all offer something to those, those individual children that need that specific care, because they're all different. They're just, in little individuals that, that do need to have that care and support from those individuals, and we're all different. So you're absolutely right.
As much as I would love this conversation to go on, and as early years educators in the same room, I'm sure we could talk about all of our different stories for the rest of the day. But just to close this session, I'm sure there'll be more. There's got to be more. Just to close this session, what would be your best tip for people that are about to go into the education and childcare sector? Lisa, let's start with you. What's your one tip for everybody?
I would say, as we all have, keep an open mind. Accept that your journey is going to take different paths, and that is really good for you and for everybody you come into contact with. So yes, so accept there is going to be a journey, enjoy that journey. That would be what I would suggest.
Amazing. I think we should have that put on a sweatshirt. Kelly?
I think mine would be to ask questions. I think it's important to remember that when you're starting your career, or even if you're starting your qualification, you're not expected to know everything. And there are lots of professionals that are doing that job that are ready to give you support and advice. And if you're wondering, for example, why an activity is set up, or why behaviour is being managed in a certain way, ask those questions, because the more you ask, not only will you learn, it will support your own practice and help you to develop as a practitioner.
Amazing, thank you. And Laura?
I think I'm going to choose reflective, because I think that's what we need to be. I think we need to reflect on the start, the middle and the end, or the whole journey. I think that's what's important.
Thank you so much, everybody. And on that note, we're going to close this session, but thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure there are going to be more sessions coming this way. Please explore the rest of the Education and Childcare Careers Toolkit to find some wonderful gems just like this one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.